Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate, you are you, and my brother has been asking me to review the 1979 Amityville Horror film. So last night we actually sat down, and for the first time in my life, I watched it from beginning to end. Not to say that I didn't like it in the past, I never had a chance to sit down and watch this thing. I saw chunks as a child, I've seen the Ryan Reynolds remake a few times. This was my first time actually sitting down, so here are my thoughts on the 1979 Amityville Horror. So up front, let me go ahead and encourage you to go down to the comment section and let me know what you think of the actual Amityville haunting. Do you cry hoax? Do you think it was a real haunting? Do you think it was true evidence of the paranormal? Go ahead and comment down below because I love those conversations and I will partake in it with you down there. I think it's definitely an interesting topic. It's why it was a best-selling book, and then ultimately this film, which many consider a classic. And I'll go ahead and commend this film for coming up with, really kind of taking what was said in the book and putting it on film in a pretty damn convincing way, pretty solid. It doesn't really live up to the modern viewer because we've seen so much more terrifying, gory, grisly images, but you can tell that this laid the groundwork in a big way, that filmmakers who grew up with this film, they saw the scares in this movie and they figured out how to intensify them and strengthen them, make them way scarier and kind of punch them up. But for what they were at the time, I have to imagine that it was a pretty damn good theater experience for people when this came out, especially with it being so in the pop culture zeitgeist. There was some real intrigue with this, and that had to make it way more intense than it is sitting down to watch it for the first time in 2020. So if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, well, thank you for not clicking away. But basically, this is based on a true story where a man wakes up one night at 3:15 in the morning, gets up and goes around the house and shoots each and every last member of his family. Later on in court, he would say that he was hearing voices and that he didn't have control of himself. That is why he did it. And then, of course, this Lutz family, again, real family, they moved into the house and got it on the cheap. And it wasn't too long before weird stuff started happening throughout the home. Very paranormal, haunting-like things. And this makes for a very solid haunted house film, a type of thing I'm not usually into, but when it's done well, I do love it. There were moments in this film that I loved it. I think part of that had to do with the cast. I think they really sold it at moments, and their rapport was very fun to watch. I mean, James Brolin and Margot Kidder, you can't do much better than that for horror leads. Margot Kidder, of course, is Lois Lane in the Superman movies. She was also great in Black Christmas, so she's got some real horror chops, and her character here is way different than her character in Black Christmas, but still a lot of fun. James Brolin, if you don't know, that's Thanos' dad, everybody. That's Josh Brolin's papa, and he's awesome in this. I love his look. I mean, I wish my beard were growing like that. Dude looks just badass. He looks like Burt Reynolds joined the Bee Gees, which that's just a fun thought in itself. And then Margot Kidder, I don't know what they're doing with her wardrobe. It's very interesting. I feel like they're trying to fill in some gaps on her character development and try to inform you about her relationship with her new husband, George Lutz, because her character design or her costumes are crazy. At one moment she's a grown woman wearing pigtails. She gets back from going grocery shopping and she's wearing a Catholic schoolgirl outfit, complete a loose tie. Looks like she's about to break out into "Oops, I Did It Again" at any moment. There's a scene where he comes into the bedroom after putting the kids to sleep or something like that, and she's there doing yoga half naked. She's wearing a little button-up shirt, but it's not buttoned, just wide open, no bra underneath, and her underwear has one leg tight on, the other one is MIA, and yeah, she's just sitting there doing half naked yoga and tries to have sex with them. So I don't know what all that was about, why they dressed her that way. If I had to fathom a reason, it would be that they were trying to show the age gap between the two characters and also show that, hey, she's very grateful to him for buying this house and taking on her children, that she's just trying to show how much love and passion and lust she still has for this man. I feel like that's the only reason you would put her in those clothes. And I know I'm going on a real tangent here, but it was just so odd, and all of us were commenting on it while watching it. So if you've never thought of that, I'm sorry that I went on for so long about it. It was just really interesting. But like I said, as a whole, the acting is solid. The scares, they are solid. I think they do a good job of recreating the events told in the book. Though some of them, like they've lost effect over time, because you can see that this film really left an impression on filmmakers that grew up with this film and with the book. And like this story has just taken on such mythos that, you know, they've seen these scenes 1,000 times and found ways to punch them up, make them have more impact, make them scarier. But this was like the groundwork. This is the first time, and that precedent, it does matter. It is important to have that perspective while watching it in 2020, because of course a film made for the standards of 1979 won't always hit the same way. But that being said, as the story unfolds, it does feel a little too slow at time. And while like the men of the cloth and the nuns, they are reacting in such fear and like such futility against the forces in this home, it's hard to buy into when other films that came earlier, the danger seemed much more ostensible and real. The fear and horror was way more potent. I'm talking about films like The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby. I think The Omen came before this? I'm not sure. But anyway, there's 3 examples that they deal with similar subject matter. They deal with the devil, they deal with kind of like haunting supernatural forces, and it feels way more intense, way more scarier, but their protagonists and the church were actually way more useful in those films. Here it's like, why is the church no good? Like, why can't the priest come into the home when it's not having much of an effect on George Lutz and his family? Yeah, George is turning, but it didn't feel like enough. He just seemed like a man who would be making this turn anyway. I mean, his business is kind of failing. He moved into this new murder home. That's gotta make you feel weird. With a new wife and her children, that's a lot of stress, and his business is failing. He's getting all these bills he can't pay. He tries to pay for his brother-in-law's catering at his wedding, and the check bounces. These are real life stresses. The dude would be losing a little bit, especially if he isn't sleeping well. So it's almost like with all that going on, you don't even need the haunting. So I don't really, his turn to like the heel, or this guy that's being kind of taken over and corrupted, much like the boy who shot his family, I just didn't buy into it. It needed more. I think they actually did that maybe a little bit better with the Ryan Reynolds remake, so that was a weak point. I just feel like this needed to be punched up and more intense at times. Like I said, you just look at contemporary films or predecessor films, and they do it a little bit better. And so while I respect the legacy of this film, I respect its contributions to like pop culture, ultimately for me, it's not like a top 10 supernatural film. For me, like I said, I'll take all those above films and think they are way more interesting. The story is told better. They're way more frightening. So for me, you know, give me Rosemary's Baby, give me The Exorcist, give me The Omen, and then after that, give me Poltergeist, give me The Conjuring, give me Insidious. There are so many films that do this type of thing better that I just can't see myself wanting to go back to this very often, because it's a little bit of a slog and the scares just don't hit the same in 2020. While the setting is fun and, you know, it's a well-known tale and it's fun to talk with your friends about, you know, hey, do you believe it or was it a hoax? It's fun to get into all the peripheral stuff. The actual film itself does not stand out for me all that well in 2020, but I am glad that I saw it. And for that, I would give it a 3.3 out of 5. You know, 66%, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It doesn't hold up as well as some of those other horror films that deal with similar subject matter, and that's why it's only the 66%. But there you go. Those are my thoughts on the 1979 Amityville Horror. What are yours? Let me know how you feel about this movie. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day. I'm Nate for natemareflix saying that's a wrap.